That's the what?
All right, good evening, East Hampton ZBA. We're live on channel 22. We're streaming to YouTube. Phone lines are open. This meeting is being recorded. You may begin.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for August 19th, 2025. We have one canceled public hearing this evening, and that is Nanette Johns at 74 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-51-4-12. That meeting has been canceled. So our first public hearing this evening is Robert McKinley at 239 Fairview Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-19-7-40.8. The size and location is 16,851 square feet at 239 Fairview Avenue, Montauk Beach Development Corp. Subdivision number 7, filed May 6, 1927 as map number 1017 in Montauk. The description is to construct a 498 square foot, second-story addition and upgrade the sanitary system on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-430 of the town code, and a variance of 23.5 feet is required for the proposed addition where 100 foot from the wetland is the minimum required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, is Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do you have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this matter.
Thank you. I think Mr. Johan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You see the posting here was properly posted. Next. I'm going to look both ways here on Fairview. Nice straight portion of the old racetrack, we like to mention. Next, please. Now I'm looking down in the north. Always north. This is south direction. Same thing on Fairview. Next. This is a picture. I'm standing in the road and I'm looking up, and it's important. I'm going to get a couple more photos of it, but when I look at the house from here, the portion to the right is where they're talking about the second floor extension. We'll see that again in another photo. Next. I turned and I'm looking across the way. This is a wetlands that's there. This is part of Peters Run as it comes out of the golf course area. And we're going to see a little more of that. It passes under the road at this point. Peters Run's been in front of us for other cases. We'll take a look at it in another photo in a minute. Next. Now I'm standing at the house. Now, again, I did this. So again, you can see the roof line and going to be in question. It'll be discussed and presented by the applicant, but it's basically to the right side of the existing structure. Next. I walked around back behind this garden, which by the way is not on the survey. This garden is Peters Run, and you'll see that there's going to be lush vegetation running here. It's a continually running wetland that moves all the way to Lake Montauk. Next. I just stood back, and again, I'm looking down. You see the land is giving way. Peters Run is there. There's a house a little bit to the left, the roof line. The Peters Run runs between and behind houses as it works its way down to the lake. Next. This just took one shot of the pool area because there was this reference in the TAM, and we did get an additional bit of information today about a future hookup between this building, if it becomes a pool house, and the new septic system. Next. Oh, this is standing now. I'm standing on the south side of the lot, and I'm looking. The house is to my right. You can just catch a little glimpse of it there. But the septic system is to go out here in front of the house, and you'll see that on the survey out towards the road. And so that area beyond that fence line and moving over to the northern property line is where the septic system is planned. Next. This is one last photo. There's a really sort of magnificent large red oak. We're going to ask tonight whether or not that's going to be subject to removal for the septic, but it's probably near the edge of it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel? Joel, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good evening, Chairman Deline and board members. Joel Halsey on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, representing Robert McKinley, the owner of the subject property. Tonight, my presentation will be short and sweet, as it does not appear that the planning department had too many issues with the proposal. I did submit a revised sanitary plan, which shows the cabana connected to the upgraded sanitary system so that it can be converted into a pool house if allowed. Sorry for the delay in submitting that. The application before the board requires a modest 23.5-foot variance in order to construct a relatively small 498 square foot second story addition to the existing residence with two small decks proposed off the addition, two small second story decks proposed off the addition. One on the backside of 43 square feet and the front terrace off the addition of 161 square feet. The project will be located over the existing residence, and the increase in lot and total lot coverage is negligible. There is no new clearing proposed, and we agree to revegetate the property to bring it in conformance with allowable clearing. That area that you saw with the garden, that will have to be removed and revegetated. That is obviously too close to the wetland. Sorry, I did not go back there and notice that. I do believe he did say he had a tomato garden on his property, so I'm guessing that's what that is, but he will have to get rid of that. The proposal before the board should be more than mitigated with the proposed upgraded sanitary system. This is a small house of only 1,496 square feet. With the proposed addition, the house will still be under 2,000 square feet at 1,994 square feet. This is only a 33% increase in the house size and well under the maximum allowable gross floor area for the old town code, which we were grandfathered in, and still under the new code of 7% plus 1,500 square feet. The property owner is not asking for much, and this will be added much needed space for the growing family with two young children, both under 5. I did recently submit a memo stating how the project complies with both the variance and natural resource special permit standards. So I will not read these at this time. And thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Just to make it clear, you've already said it, but I want to make it clear that the garden will be removed.
Yeah, that would have it would have to get a variance from the board to begin with. So yeah, that will have to be removed.
Yeah, well, it wasn't noticed, but I just want to make sure you're offering to remove it. Okay.
And hopefully that would be a condition of the prior to the issuance of a building permit or prior to the issuance of a CO.
Approval, yeah.
And is there any plumbing in the cabana now?
There is no plumbing in the cabana right now. No, actually, the cabana has not been built. It still has a valid building permit, but it has not been built yet.
Are they going to do that in conjunction with this, if it's approved?
They would have had plumbing too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could build the cabana tomorrow but if approved, they would add plumbing and have a bathroom.
Right.
It's all part of a separate future application.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just a tiny thing on the survey, Joel, because it still says proposed pool on the survey.
No, it's constructed.
I know.
Unfortunately, we have an open building permit for the cabana.
Right.
And the town does not allow you to close out one building permit while you still have an open building permit. So everything on the survey is still technically proposed but it's there.
Yeah, I just wanted to, ultimately, I guess we want it as built, right? Yeah.
And unfortunately, I believe that tree will have to go for the sanitary system. And unfortunately, it would have gone for a sanitary upgrade in the future as well.
It may actually be off the property, but it's still close enough.
Yeah, exactly. And we tried to design a deep well system, a deep system, but to get to clean sand and excavation, it would have been just too much excavation involved with that. So
Do your best.
And that would have gotten rid of the tree as well too.
But if it's off the property.
I do believe the tree is on the property. I
What's
do.
off the
Sure, it
property?
was hard to tell standing there if it's on or off
Yeah.
because I couldn't.
If it's
tell
off the property, can't take it.
If it's off the property, then it should be fine. But I don't believe it. I wish.
Any other questions? No. No?
I guess, could you just respond, in the TAM, it talks about the size of the leaching structures in the field. Was there any other alternative that?
Oh, yeah, I did submit.
I'm only asking because it's
There
in
is a
the
memo
TAM.
submitted to that from the engineer.
Right.
And we did, the excavation involved with a deep system would be probably more intrusive than, the shallow system that we're proposing. But the engineer did address that in the memo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Fine.
Good evening, Board. Sarah Lewis for the Planning Department.
Sarah, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you. So I think Joel already covered a lot. The subject residence is situated on the north side of Fairview Avenue in Montauk and is a B-zoned residence, originally constructed in 1978. The original home pre-exists wetland setback requirements, with the most recent CO being issued in 2016 for a one-story, one-family residence with 4 bedrooms, a garage, shed, deck, and roof-mounted solar electric system. Came into the possession of the current owners in 2017. It did appear before the board previously in 2023 for an NRSP for the construction of a 200-square-foot swimming pool, pool equipment, fencing, and a patio within 150 feet of freshwater wetlands. These have since been constructed, and as Joel said, there's still an open building permit. There are 3 wetlands associated with the subject property, which are part of a drainage system known as Peters Run, a water course that runs from the golf course directly to the west end of Lake Montauk. These are directly impacted by any uphill development, and the board should consider that improvements to this parcel can have impacts that extend well beyond the property lines. Should also be noted that these wetlands are associated with New York State DEC regulated wetlands and would likely require an Article 24 freshwater wetland permit. Other than that, I think Joel covered mostly everything. Obviously, the planning department supports upgrading the sanitary system with the proposed additional bedroom, and it appears to be in the most conforming location. But I'm here for any questions.
Any questions?
I do not have any.
The only thing is about the garden, so the garden, they'll submit some sort of revegetation plan, which you'll approve.
Yeah, noted. And I did also,
Approve.
and I did want to mention as well that that tree in the driveway that we spoke about earlier, it looks like it will remain according to the sanitary plans. So I can show that as well. I have it up if we're interested.
For the Oaks.
Thank you.
Benefit.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes,
Does
thank you.
anybody in the audience, in the public, like to address anybody online, Matt?
We have no callers on the phone line.
Okay, thank you. With that, can we have a motion?
Yes. Then in the application of Robert McKinley, 239 Fairview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-19-7-40.8, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record at this time.
Second?
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Thank you, Joel. Next, we have Mark Goldstein and Catherine Borzon at 724 Hans Creek Road in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-74-5-2. The size and location is 35,550 square feet at 724 Hans Creek Road, lots 23, Hans Creek Harbor, file 513-1966, map number 4629 in East Hampton. The description is to allow a stone wall to remain within minimum wetland setbacks, a fence, gate, and slate walk to remain within the jurisdiction of a wetland. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code, and 1 variance is required for this application. A variance of 31.1 feet is needed to allow a stone wall to remain 68.9 feet from the wetland where 100 foot is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence zone, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of notice of posting and everything seems to be in order and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. I did the report on this, and you can see that the property was properly posted. Next, this is a photo looking up to the driveway. This is a hilly lot, hilly area, so we'll be walking up into that driveway to see the stone wall. Next. That's a stone wall right in front of us, and the property drops off pretty severely beyond that stone wall. Next. And another, you can see this, you can see the grade difference here. Next. So this is looking into the gate that is requested in the slate walkway. Next. And looking back to the fencing gate in question. That's it. We have the agent. How are you, Alex?
Good, thank you. Hey, everybody, Alex Balsam, Schmidt and Hubert. I'm here tonight with Mark Goldstein and Kathy Borzon, the owners. The house, as you know, was built in 1977. Mark purchased the house in 2008, and in 2011, Kathy was added to the title. So, as you said, we need a 31-foot variance to allow the 1.6-foot tall stone wall to remain in place around the perimeter of the driveway. And we have the minor structures that are within the NRSP jurisdiction that were added since the original house was built. And those minor structures are the wooden curb around part of the driveway, some wooden fencing, and the slate walks. So the granting of the variance for the stone wall will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. It's not going to create a detriment to nearby properties. It's a minor structure. It may even have a net environmental benefit given the location of the original pre-existing driveway. This wall's likely keeping the driveway intact. It's going to stop stones or has been stopping stones and whatnot from eroding down the hill towards the creek. Kind of keeps everything together. The benefits to the homeowner can't be reasonably achieved by another method. We think the wall is desirable, perhaps necessary and beneficial, and adds a degree of safety to anyone operating a vehicle in the driveway. Obviously, Roy, as you said, it goes down pretty steeply beyond the other side of the wall. And at 1.6 foot tall, we think that the existing wall is of minimal design, and obviously we can't have this wall without the variance. The variance, we say, is not substantial because we're talking about a modest 1.6 foot tall wall. We're not going to have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. To that point, the planning department's memo said that we would not reasonably expect substantial environmental impacts from the structures here. And was it difficulty self-created? Perhaps not. The driveway was there since the house was constructed in 77. We have, as the current owners, obviously had no say in the driveway location, but we feel the wall is necessary and desirable. And if you do disagree with me and feel that the difficulty was self-created, as you know, that's not determinative, and you can still grant us the variance. For the wooden curb and the wooden fence and the slate walk that are within the NRSP jurisdiction, these are, again, minor structures that we're seeking approval for. We think there's upland can feasibly be possible given the location of the house. Obviously, they're accessory to the house. Again, they're of minimal size in nature, that we're not going to have an undue disturbance to any of the nearby important natural features or the groundwater. And being that both us as the applicant and the planning department in their TAM, don't anticipate any substantial environmental impacts from the structures that we're requesting the leave for, we think that any alternate designs or locations would not have a definable impact. So that's our case.
Any questions, board
Yeah,
members?
do you want to comment on the recommendation in the TAM for catch basins at the base of the driveway?
Yes, we would be happy to comply with that. Hire a local engineer and submit something to the town.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Morgan? How are you, Morgan?
Good evening, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So the application is to keep a stone wall and some minor structures within wetland jurisdiction, including a fence, gate, and slate walk. The stone wall requires a setback variance from the wetlands to the north that are associated with Hants Creek, which is a tributary to 3 Mile Harbor. These specific wetlands are influenced by freshwater runoff from the surrounding area and the tidal flushing that is associated with 3 Mile Harbor. The Hants Creek wetlands have been designated as a New York State significant fish and coastal wildlife habitat, a component of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Area, and have been designated as a prime wildlife area by the DEC. The lot is also within the Harbor Protection Overlay District. The driveway orientation does not seem to have changed since the early 80s when referencing historic aerials. It's difficult to determine when the stone wall was built, and the wall seems to function more as a barrier for the parking area rather than a retaining wall, since it doesn't seem to be holding back any soils or significantly altering the grade. The planning department does not anticipate any substantial environmental impacts from the structures requesting relief, but since the property contains some steep slopes, we recommend that catchment basins be installed to mitigate the driveway runoff. And I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Just a small thing, the survey, the TAM says this is an HPOD, and the survey says it's in water recharge overlay. Is it both, or?
It would be HPOD, not water recharge.
All right, that should be corrected on that.
Any other
Do
questions?
you have a particular feel for where these catchment basins should go?
I'll leave that up to the engineer, I think, to design it based on 2-inch rainfall.
And then, if I may ask, I don't know, this is in our jurisdiction, so, but it's in the TAM, so you have this building permit for a pool that remains open, but there's obviously a pool on the survey.
I believe
so-
they probably just weren't able to get, the most recent CO on the property is from '86, so there was a building permit issued. After that,
This is at 2000, I don't know when it was.
the
actually
CO,
built.
the most recent CO?
No, no.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
It says a building permit for swimming pool was issued in 2000 and remains open, but clearly there's a swimming pool on the survey, so.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe the prior owner attempted to get a CO and couldn't because of the wall, the CO requirement for purchases is relatively new, so I can't speak to why that is still open.
Any other questions?
No.
No. Thank you, Morgan. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to address this application? Anybody online, Matt?
Stand by.
There is?
All right, this is Matthew again. I'm just responding through the phone line just to let the public know that the phone is open and it's working properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
For all
All
our
right.
fans.
With that, I'll make a motion in applicant of Mark Goldstein and Catherine Borzon at 724 Hans Creek Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-74-5-2, to close the public hearing and the record.
Second.
Concur, sorry.
Thank you. So next we have 53 High Drive LLC, TI or T?
Treasure Island.
Treasure Island,
Island.
TI Drive, we'll call it. TI Drive.
TI.
LLC at 53 Treasure Island Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-175-5-36. Size and location is 8,000 square feet of 53 Treasure Island Drive in Beach Hampton, section number 4, block 6, lots 9 through 12, map number 1319 in Amagansett. Description is to allow an existing shower shed, approximately 112 square foot slate patio, approximately 833 square foot of decking, LPG tanks, fencing, and AC units to remain within setbacks and jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 8 variances are required for this application. Variances of 55.1 feet, 57.2 feet, 43.5 feet, 46.5 feet, 45.8 feet, 47 feet, and 46.7 feet are required from 255-430 of the town to construct the proposed LPG tanks, 44.9 feet, fencing 42.8 feet, AC units 56.5 feet, outdoor shower shed 54.2 feet, slate patio 53 feet, and decking 53.3 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. One variance is 7.5 feet from 255-1110 of the town code is required to allow the existing LPG tank to remain 2.5 feet from the east and rear yard lot line where 10-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence 8 in flood zone, elevation is 10, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
I reviewed the affidavits and notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this matter.
Okay, we have a report.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm standing on Treasure Island Drive, looking at the property. There's two driveways on this property. This is the one to the south. The posting is there. And I just tried to get a little bit of a shot of the front. It's pretty heavily vegetated. You can't even see the house from the road. I didn't take a shot of the road, but I think we're all familiar with, this is a narrow lane in Beach Hampton. Next slide, thank you. I just took a closer shot of the posting. It looked to be in order. Next slide. Great, I've gone up that driveway that we were just looking at and making the turn towards the house. It's a one-story house, and I'm going to just wrap around the back and try to get shots of all the elements that are noticed. Next slide. So I just also wanted to show the deck is, you can see the edge of the deck, but I just wanted to get a shot of, it's cleared, it's grass, it's not, doesn't really look like a lawn. And then really right to the back of that, doesn't show up great in the pictures, but you do see a more naturalized view. It's probably off the property, but leading towards the reserve, towards the back, and it seems to be mostly undisturbed. Next slide. Same thing, this is also just the house is behind me, the deck's behind me, and sort of the border between the grass and as you get into the more natural vegetation. Next slide. Okay, now I've just turned around, I have all that vegetation to my back. This is the rear facade of the house. That is really the main and only usable decking on the property. There's deck that runs around the house, but it's mostly walkway, so I just wanted to show you that. And then off to the side, you can see there's that little stone patio down the steps. Next slide. I just took the view to the other side of the house. There's a clearer view of that slate patio, and I'll get closer, but you can see the shower towards the right part of that photo. Next slide. That's a closer look. That's the shed shower, and that fence there, inside of that are the LPG tanks. And then you can see the northern property line, and there's a fairly sizable house that's been there for a while as the next door neighbor. Next slide. Okay, now I'm just wrapping around. There's the AC unit. It's close up against the house, and there's the north decking that's going to run back to that other driveway. Next slide. So now I'm in that other, the more northern driveway. Again, just a shot. Now you can sort of see the front facade of the house, which is screened heavily from the road. That might be it. Is that it? Oh, okay, sorry. This is a shot of the neighbor across the road, just to get a little sense of character. Anything else? Oh, and that, again, that's just the front of the house. No, all the screening from the front and the vegetation. Thank you.
Thank you. How are you, Britton?
Good evening. Britton Bistrian.
Britton, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm Britton Bistrian, representing 53 TI Drive LLC. That's the owner of the property that you just saw at 53 Treasure Island Drive. I'm sorry, did we go over the posting?
Yeah.
Oh, we did. Okay. Trying to make sure I got that technicality. In the Beach Hampton section of Amagansett, the parcel is sited on the east side of Treasure Island Drive, about equidistant between Bluff Road and the Atlantic Ocean. This parcel is part of a large 1940 subdivision. The house was originally constructed in 1958. Subsequent building permits were pulled in 1960, 1961, and 1962. They were all very small appurtenances. As you can see, the house is not large. With those three permits, there were porches. One enclosed a porch, and the other one was a minor 380 square foot addition. None of these permits were ever closed. The original construction of the house or any of those three I just listed, and no CO has ever existed on the parcel. This property has been in generations of the same family's ownership for 67 years. It was not until they were considering a sale that they found out that there was no, these are now the grandchildren, but no CO and open permits from the 1960s. In June of 2023, they went to the building department and received a list of items that they would need to obtain a CO. They started working on that list immediately. They obtained an electrician. They obtained a plumber and a surveyor to upgrade and certify the utility systems and document what was on the parcel. At no time in this correspondence with the building department was the ZBA approval ever mentioned. It took them time to coordinate the work that had to be done to obtain an underwriter's certificate for the electric specifically. The house had been wired in the 1960s and it has never been renovated. So you can imagine there was wiring, smoke detectors, things like that that didn't exist 60 some odd years ago. They finally submitted their laundry list of items to close the permits in March of 2024 to the building department. And when following up on the issuance of their CO, they were told that they could not get a CO because the shed, the outdoor shower, the propane tanks, the small patio area, and the stoop deck additions were not included in the 1960s permits. So they had been working for about 10 months to get the CO, and then they were told they had to come to the zoning board. At this point, in March of 2025, I was engaged to assist them as they felt like it had gone beyond their capabilities. They felt like they were navigating a system that wasn't ending in a CO. They already couldn't list the house for sale. They had, problems. I was hired to close the open permits and obtain a CO. It was very difficult from the scarce building department records, the 1950s and 60s. They were effectively plot plans. I'm sure you've all seen them. The building permit application where the actual plan for the house is just a couple boxes on the third page of the application. There is no construction documents for the original house. I'm sure that they built a deck or a stoop to get into the house. There's exterior entrances, as you saw, and you wouldn't just step up from grade into them. I'm also sure there was fuel tanks because the house was heated. We were then told that the items couldn't be legalized with a building permit, and an application would have to go to the ZBA. Sorry, I went back to the building department and said, hey, you gave them this list, and we've satisfied the list, and are you sure these things can't be found in the file? And then I started looking through pulling all the foils, and as an end result, they said, no, you have to go to the zoning board. I had to break to the family that I wouldn't be able to get their CO that they thought they could get through the building department, and they wouldn't be able to sell their house anytime soon since an updated CO is a requirement of sale. So I filed this ZBA application in April of 2024. It's been a year and 4 months to get to tonight since I filed the zoning board. I only highlight this because I think we have to have a better system for applications such as this, where the majority of these minor accessory items have been in place for over 50 years, decades before the modern zoning code in 1984. I'm here tonight asking the board to approve a laundry list of small items that almost have no impact on the neighborhood, since it probably predates most of the neighbors. There was no letters submitted in opposition to my knowledge, and a longtime resident of Treasure Island, who this board has seen many times, submitted one in support of legalizing this property. We're not asking to build anything, just legalize the existing conditions and obtain a CO. They've had a very, very rough and expensive road to execute something that should have been much simpler. We're here seeking approval for these necessary minor exterior structures to obtain this CO and close this long duration of a chapter. I don't really have much more to add than that. I thought the history was pretty critical.
Any questions?
There was a recommendation in the TAM about possible mitigation with additional plantings.
I think that's a little overreaching. We're not asking to build anything. These structures, I think most of the structures have been there since the 1950s. I think the hardship that these people have had to mitigate in getting directives from a building department that cost them to spend a ton of money that then sent them to the zoning board. I don't know if mitigation for something that we're not building, for them to spend another $50,000 to plant their backyard, I just don't see it. If the board necessitates it, I will begrudgingly accept it, but I think we should take into consideration, and I believe I submitted them in the zoning board application, but I have all the building department emails with Joe Palermo and everything saying, these are the 5 things you need to submit and get an inspection, we'll give you a CO. It's 2 years ago.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler?
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
Tyler, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So the subject property is situated on the east side of Treasure Island Drive in Amagansett. The project before the ZBA is to request to legalize several structures which have been constructed on the property since the late 1950s when the home was first constructed. Many of these structures proposed to remain appear to have been in existence since at least 1984 aerial images, with the stone patio constructed more recently and appearing in the 2013 aerial images. The parcel is in the Beach Hampton area of Amagansett. Beach Hampton has low elevations and a high groundwater table and is set within the Double Dunes natural area of East Hampton. The subject property has been cleared of native duneland vegetation, likely since it was first developed. Aerial images from 2001 appear to show the same existing conditions that are in place today, with nearly no native habitat, significant lawn area, and landscaping. The wetlands within jurisdiction exist to the north and east of the parcel and extend well beyond the jurisdictional limits of the parcel. These wetlands consist of a duneland depression which collect rainwater and runoff from surrounding parcels and are within the Gansett Dune Property Owners Association reserved area. This reserved area was established as a buffer to surrounding development to help preserve the duneland characteristics of the area and protect the significant wetlands which exist throughout the reserved area. The application is looking to permit several structures which have existed on the property for over a decade, many of which have been in existence for nearly 40 years. While the variance requests are substantial, the existing conditions on the property being unchanged for so long and also being minimal improvements may meet the NRSP and variance standards with appropriate mitigation. The decking, small area fencing around the propane tanks, the tanks themselves, and the shower are all visible on the 2001 aerial images and likely predate that by a significant margin. The existing slate patio is more recent, first appearing in the 2013 aerial image. This is a small area and is similar to the decking that surrounds it, and which is also seeking relief. The AC unit on the north side of the residence is not able to be narrowed down with aerial imagery, but is close to the existing structures and would not have significant impacts on wetlands. The LPG tank is located approximately only 2.5 feet from the eastern rear yard lot line, a significant deviation from the required 10 feet. However, this is relief from a reserved area, and as such, there are no significantly impacted direct neighbors. There certainly are reasonable alternative locations that the LPG tanks could be shifted to in order to meet the rear yard setback, and the applicant should show how they meet the standards. Given that the structures have been in existence for such a lengthy period of time, their minimal sizes, and the limited improvements on the parcel in general, the board may feel that relief is warranted. The board should discuss what appropriate mitigation would be to allow the structures to remain if approved. Revegetation of the rear of the parcel would be the most beneficial to the wetlands within jurisdiction, both establishing a buffer to help reduce impacts from runoff from the existing structures and also establish some level of native dune land vegetation on the property, which has long been cleared of vegetation. A 10-foot revegetation buffer along the rear of the parcel would provide benefits to the wetlands and character of the neighborhood, while also still allowing for reasonable use of the rear of the parcel. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Is it reasonable to suspect that most of these improvements that we have in front of us tonight for relief pre-existed current environmental standard?
Possibly, yeah. It's hard to tell based on the 1984. I can pull up the 84 aerial. It's not very easy to see what's going on in those older aerials. They don't have great resolution. And I mean, in 2001, which is the earliest good aerials, you can clearly see that everything except for the patio existed at that point in time. I think it's reasonable to assume that a lot of it existed. It's a very small deck. I imagine it probably was there in 1984. It could have been there in 1984 based on the aerial. It's just, I can't say for certain it is or is not.
Right.
Any other questions?
Good.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the public like to address this application? Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
We have no callers on the line.
Thank you. Can we have a motion?
Yes, one moment.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're good. Okay. Yeah. In the matter of 53 TI Drive LLC, 53 Treasure Island Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-175-5-36, I make a motion to close the public hearing and the record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have Stephen Michelson and Judy Capano Michelson at 2 Fieldfield Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-159-1-18.31. The size and location is 40,560 square feet at 2 Fieldview Lane, the Fields at East Hampton, Lot 31, map number 6459 in East Hampton. The description is to construct a 7,871 square foot tennis court within side yard lot line setbacks. The relief sought is one variance of 32.5 feet from 255-1110 and 255-1188 of the town code is required to construct the proposed tennis court 17.5 feet from the eastern side yard lot line where a 50-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is a residence zone X flood zone and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of notice and posting and everything seems to be in order and the board has jurisdiction over this matter.
Okay. You can fast forward this photo doesn't apply. There you go. This is a posting on Roberts Lane that's properly posted. This is an empty lot. I'm going to show you, this is going down Fairview. Fieldview, right? Fieldview. Again, looking at the lot, it's undeveloped. Next. This is the posting on Fieldview. And again, just looking at the lot, the house next door, I had a photo previous, it's you can hardly see it anyway, but still, it looks like this lot, to do the tennis court, a lot of it will be additionally cleared. So I think that's it. Thomas? How are you, Thomas?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thomas Crouch from Wayland Filer PLC for the applicants, Steve and Judy Michelson. It's a pretty simple application. The applicants would like to build a tennis court on the vacant lot adjacent to their property. They have a house at 4 Fieldview, which is directly, it's lot 30 labeled on the survey. They've lived out here for 30 years and their plan is to pass down both properties to their children who are all in their 20s. It's a single variance for a tennis court on a vacant property. The applicants, as I said, own the adjacent property and the single variance is from their own side yard setback. The application meets zoning in every other respect. The applicants have proposed screening and sinking in the tennis court to limit the impact on the neighborhood. As mentioned in the TAM, they're agreeable to amending the screening plan if the board would like. And just to be clear, per the Department of Natural Resources, the property is pre-existing non-conforming, fully cleared. In response to the TAM, I put in a letter last week addressing the similarities between this application and the 9 prior tennis court applications that Mr. Borzak mentioned. Just briefly, the board has only seen one similar application, 225 Old Montauk Highway LLC, in which the applicant both owned the adjacent property and the single variance was from the common lot line between them. If you review the board determination, which I submitted with my letter, the board discussed the unique circumstances of that application which apply here. Quote, the board notes that while it is unusual for the zoning board to grant yard setback variances, this particular application presents unique circumstances. Notably, the principal of the applicant corporation is also the principal of 221 Old Montauk Highway LLC, which is the adjoining party to the west and the party most affected by the grant of the requested variance. Essentially, the applicant seeks a side yard variance from itself. That fact is really important here, to stress it several times. The fact that the applicants are themselves the most infected neighbors and that the town code requires them to hold both properties in common ownership distinguishes this application from really every other tennis court application except for 225 Old Montauk Highway. Further, the lot size and shape are similar to prior applications this board has granted relief for tennis courts. As you said, the lot is 40,650 square feet. This board has granted variances to allow tennis courts on lots that are 40,195 square feet in the case of 68 Prospect Hill LLC and 44,784 feet in the case of Old Montauk Highway LLC. The TAM mentioned that the lot is only 169 feet wide. The board has granted variances for tennis courts on lots that were 150 feet wide, 160 feet wide, and 169 feet wide. And I know there were a number of comments submitted from neighbors. I believe most of them were positive. I got forwarded one from the neighbor at 31 Roberts Lane, and just wanted to address their concerns quickly. He said there were really 3 concerns he had. First was a covenant that I submitted with the application that said that no building or structure of any kind whatsoever except a one-family dwelling and private garage shall be erected on a lot. That covenant, would require the removal of swimming pools. There are, as I counted, there were 25 swimming pools on the 33 lots in the subdivision. So I don't really think, and also it's a private covenant, so I don't really think it's within the zoning board's jurisdiction regardless. The second, my client sent out a letter to his neighbors, describing the application, giving them notice, and said that, his neighbors could use the court. I think he had concerns that the court would be considered a community, feature. My client does not want it to be a community feature. He mentioned in the letter that it was specifically for his family, but he probably will invite some other people to play, and if that includes his neighbors, I think that's perfectly within their right to do so. And then he had concerns about the court being used for pickleball and basketball. Clients are avid tennis players. They do not play pickleball. So I don't think that there would be any concern of that. They're, agreeable to conditions about time of play. They don't plan on installing lights. They don't play before 9 a.m. So anyway, I'm happy to take questions from the board if you have any.
So, and from our standpoint, it's still a large variance, right? So you can address, and from our standpoint, we have to look at alternate locations, alternate things. Have you pursued any of those ideas?
Yeah, I mean, as far as alternate location, so I had a conversation with Joe Palermo before we submitted, because this is kind of a long story, but basically 68 Prospect Hill in 2017, Building Inspector Ann Glennon issued a determination that the court did not have to meet a double front yard setback in that application, which meant that on that application, the court was only 66 feet from the road, where it would normally have to be 100 feet. So on this applied to this application, it would create a conforming envelope in this direction. However, when I met with Joe, we looked at the code and we looked at that determination, and his feeling was that determination ignored the plain language of the code, which said that you have to double setbacks for playing courts. So his recommendation at the time was to, file the zoning board, file for a variance, because he would not grant a building permit based on, he felt the opposite way about that. So, that to me is the only other, avenue, like the only other possible configuration. This one, I mean, I agree that it's a 65% variance. I know that's considered significant, but I think you have to look at the full circumstances around it, and it's a unique situation. I mean, I don't know, there's not very many situations where the variance is from the common lot line that the applicant also owns and is required to hold in common ownership if he builds a tennis court.
On the common ownership part of the code here too, it also requires that in the future, if the owner sells, that you must be able to put a primary structure.
Right.
Fit a primary structure. And I mean, looking at it, it looks like it does now. If you were to rotate it, would you be able to do it? And maybe it might cut that off. I don't know. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talked about just the idea that 2017 determination, and I believe we discussed that with Joe, and I didn't plot, like if you flipped it this way, we didn't get to the point of plotting a residence because he wasn't going to agree with the determination. But I mean, I think it would fit. It would be kind of this kind of size house. So, yeah, I mean, those are the two alternatives. I mean, looking at 68 Prospect Hill, like just personally, like I think I'm kind of shocked that got approved and built, but that's it was only it didn't meet, it was only 66 feet from the road, so it probably needed two variances, but it was only one that they needed to get.
Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So first of all, I think you said that of the list of the other tennis court variances, you said I think only one, in your view, was relevant to 25 Old Montauk Highway. I wasn't on the board at the time, but if I remember, I think this is 133 SP LLC. That's the Sayers Path one, where the board denied 3 variances. And I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, the lots were in common ownership and the variances were, or at least some of them were, to the common ownership property. So why is that not relevant?
So when I submitted a letter last week that actually discussed 4 applications, that was one of them.
Right.
225 Old Montauk Highway is the most relevant in my view. But yes, there were 2 lots in common ownership.
Right.
You know, that property is long, narrow property on Sayers Path. It needed, I think, a 96% variance. And even granting that still needed a variance from the opposite lot line. So, I mean, that one is applicable in the sense that they're both in common ownership. It's not applicable because this is a single variance from the common lot line. There are no other variances required. It meets zoning, you know, meets all other setbacks. So, yeah, I mean, to me, you know, also, I said that this lot was 169 feet wide. That lot was 110 feet wide. I think there's a material difference. So that's why.
And then I'm going to ask council to elaborate a little bit on the validity of these covenants. I think because you and I don't understand it well, a private covenant or whatever. So I'll ask council, but just going to the covenants right now because they're in the packet and in the public record. So I'm going to ask a couple questions. So first it says, a dwelling erected on a corner lot shall be considered to front on all streets. Now, I'm aware that there's a reserved area off of Roberts Lane, but I'm trying to square why that is not a front yard and why a double setback wouldn't be needed and maybe council has this too, well, you're council, but, you know, just really want to understand that.
I'll just, it's not a front yard. It doesn't front on the street. There's another separate piece of property between the road.
Because it's a reserve and not a scenic easement and it's considered.
It's a separate tax map number. It's a totally different.
Town-owned reserve.
I just wanted to.
It was part of when they drew this subdivision, they cut it up that way, probably for this exact reason.
I was just asking because the covenant, right, sort of is a little bit different, but thank you. And then also back to the chairman's question about, you know, needing to be able to build a residence, and I think in the document somewhere it says they intend to. Again, back to the covenant, whether it's valid or not. This is a covenant that actually specifies minimum sizes of houses.
Right.
So I tried to visualize it, but, you know, it's not going to be a tiny house based on that covenant. So, and you feel that there's still ample room to do that.
Yeah, I think principal setback is this line. Purple one. Okay, yeah, principal structure setback is this. So that's a good size. That's a pretty good size envelope. And I think the minimum size is like 1,500 square feet or something. But again, you know, that's again a private covenant. You know, our position is, particularly when it comes to the idea of accessory structures, that covenant hasn't been enforced, given the large number of accessory structures that are on those lots.
So can I ask council, like, are these covenants relevant to how we look at this application? Are they something we need to consider?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the record, so you should consider them. But as applicants' counsel has stated, they've never been enforced by the town since they've been in. And this is not just this. There's many subdivisions that have these types of covenants that the town has just ignored.
Well, also, the town doesn't have authority to enforce these. These are private covenants. They weren't imposed by the planning board in the subdivision approval. So that's yes, if it's a covenant that's required by the town for a planning board approval, then the town has jurisdiction. But this is a developer implemented covenant, so the town doesn't really have a role.
And going back to Prospect Hill, that was a very unusual situation and very unusual lot. And there was a question as to whether they could fit a principal structure on that. And I think we made them demonstrate that they could, show us a survey of some sort that would show that they could actually fit it. I don't know if that's something you could provide.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to provide that. I think it's clear from looking, but if we need to plot it, I'm happy to do that.
I'm wondering if we could hear from the planning department before we maybe determine that, maybe they've looked at that. too as well.
That's a good point.
Thanks, Thomas. Yep, yep, good.
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department again. So this subject property is located on the south side of Fairview Lane near the intersection with Roberts Lane in East Hampton. The application is in front of the ZBA requesting a single variance in order to construct a tennis court within the eastern side yard lot line setback. The proposed project includes a significant variance from the eastern yard lot line, which the application notes is a parcel that is in common ownership with the subject property. Section 255-11-20C of the town code allows a parcel to have an accessory structure without the preexistence of a main building, as long as title to the contiguous properties is held in the same names, and there's sufficient space remaining in order to construct a principal residence. The proposed variance, needs to be carefully reviewed by the ZBA, and a solid foundation should be established on how the proposed structure meets the variance standards if approved. Even if the variance is requested from a parcel that is in common ownership, it is a significant variance to grant, and the board will need to weigh the unique circumstances of the two lots being in common ownership against the standards. Setbacks for tennis courts are doubled the normal accessory setback and must be at least 50 feet if they are adjoining a residential property. The court adjoins residential properties to the east and south, a reserved area to the west, and the road right-of-way to the north. As mitigation, the board may want to consider requiring the proposed screening shown on the engineer plans to remain in perpetuity, or possibly add additional screening and vegetation. Variance applications for tennis courts are not common. Since 2012, the board has had 9 variance requests for tennis courts, which are detailed in the assessment. I don't need to go over each and every one of those. Just to address the available space for a principal residence, there's 70 feet between the front yard setback and the tennis court, or more than 70 feet between the front yard setback and the tennis court. I think there's ample space for a residence. I don't have any concerns.
Sanitary system.
Yeah, I didn't have any concerns with there being sufficient room. I mean, the sanitary system could be in it, it even closer to the road if it had to be. It doesn't have to. It has to meet a 5-foot setback. So, I didn't have any concerns when I was looking at it that there was ample space for. I mean, the town code minimum is 600 square feet, so that could easily be achieved. Even 1,500 square feet. That's what a 750 square foot footprint. I don't think there's any concern about that on this property at all. But I can answer any questions you might have if there are any other ones.
Did you at all consider suggesting moving the tennis court to the west, closer to the reserve area, to make more space between the residential lot and the tennis court? Is that a recommendation we should be considering?
It's certainly an idea. I wasn't going to recommend they ask for another variance.
Yeah, it's a different variance, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an idea.
Right now, there's no variance. We'd be creating a second one.
Right.
Yeah.
You would. I'm not sure how wide that reserved area is, but you could sort of look at it like.
Looks like 30.
What if the area on the other side is their front yard setback? Like, what would that put them at? I wasn't looking into it like in that respect. Or rotating it so that there's, and request a variance from the front yard. I don't know if that's a better option for the board.
That's fine. Just wanted to know what your consideration would have been about moving it.
Yeah, I hadn't considered adding an additional variance.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
No.
Thank you, Tyler. Is there anybody in the public would like to would like to address this application? Is there anybody on the phone?
We have no callers on the line.
Thank you.
Thomas, I do have a question. You mentioned that they don't plan on putting lights. Lights would really be kind of egregious.
Right.
Tennis court there. So would they be willing to covenant that?
Sure,
That the
yeah.
Lights would never be put on?
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I
Okay,
have.
thank you.
Thanks.
So in the application of Stephen Michelson and Judy Capano Michelson, 2 Fieldview Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-159-1-18.31. Make a motion to close the public hearing in the record.
Second.
I concur.
Thank you. All right, we move into our post-hearing decisions. Our first post-hearing decision is Savina Delamata at 41 Gardeners Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-174-4-7. Size and location is 10,615 square feet of 41 Gardner's Drive, Beach Hampton, Section 1, Block 10, lots 34 through 38, Amagansett. The description is a removal of various appurtenances and construct a 338 square foot attached garage with 312 square foot of roof deck, 37 square feet of first story additions and to the residence, an attached shed, sauna, 790 square feet of patios, new fencing with driveway gate, and a large driveway on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. The leaf sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-440 and variances from 255-430 minimum wetland setbacks and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. 1 and 2, an 83-foot variance is required to allow the addition and roof deck to be constructed 17 from wetlands. 3 and 4, a variance of 79.6 is required to allow the attached shed and sauna to be constructed 20.4 feet from wetlands. 5 and 80.3 foot variance is required to construct the closest of the addition 19.7 feet from wetlands. An 88.2 foot variance is required to construct the closest of stone patio 11.8 feet from the wetlands. And 7 and 90 foot variance is required to construct the fencing 10 feet from the wetlands, all where a 100-foot setback is required. Zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, and elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. Council member, we discussed this, and it's recommended we come back to us and maybe discuss it in further detail to kind of clarify our decision. So, Jane, you want to try and go for it?
What's that movie? Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day.
Okay, so I think the issue. So I am not changing in terms of how I decided regarding to the variances themselves. I will stick with my view that the approval of the very small, I'll call them very small, fill-ins of the residence structure. There's one on the west side, I guess over the front door, and there's one on the south side where there's a little jog. I do believe those meet the variance standards, and I will continue to approve them. I denied all the other variances, and I'm not going to go through again how they went through the standards. I did that in depth at the first post-hearing decision. I think the question, as I understand it, is that, to me, there's absolutely no doubt I want to see these wetlands fixed, and they must be fixed. But I think, I was willing to approve those two actually without making it contingent on the complete and total restoration and fixing of the wetlands. I know the board kind of later in the discussion, I think in the second time we'd made the decision, partly, I think, because of some things that council had said, the board had a discussion about, well, anything we approve should be ask for the mitigation. But I do believe these two variances that I would approve meet the standards, and I would say there's probably not a nexus to make it contingent on the buffers and, all the restoration of the wetland. Anything else, I would ask for that mitigation. Is that kind of where we need to be going, council? Like, am I on the right track?
You would be denying the rest of the
I'm still denying the rest of the application. Thank you.
That's pretty clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That clarifies it.
I haven't changed my mind either. I did want a contingent on the restoration of the southeast wetlands. I'm willing to forego that. I stick with the two additions also. And I think I still would like the northern wetlands restored as they said they would, minimally. We'll forego the other one and let that go back to Justice Court, or whoever has to go to be addressed.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both board members. I think that if a nexus doesn't exist, that enables us to require complete restoration of the wetlands based on these two small approvals. I understand that, and I'm willing to stick with my original approval of the same two small additions and deny the rest of the application, while understanding that we probably don't have a nexus to insist on the restoration of the wetlands.
Chair.
I too am sticking to my decision to deny the application. I think these variances are significantly substantial. They're asking for 80 to 90% foot variances. I've already gone on record 3 times with this one, so I'm just going to say these are not the minimum variances necessary. I think the project will have negative impacts on the neighborhood and the physical and environmental conditions. The wetlands can't really be buffered and protected when you're granting 80 to 90% variances in an NRSP jurisdiction. So the question for me became, is rejuvenating the wetland enough mitigation to approve? And correcting a violation, in my view, does not mean you're entitled to an NRSP. This is a self-created hardship. The owner was aware of the presence of wetlands and knew the constraints of the property. I'm already on record as stating the value of these wetlands, so I'm going to deny this application in its entirety.
Thank you. I'm with the board, and I too will stick with my decision to approve the 2 small additions. I think anything else on this application it's an aggressive application on a highly constrained lot and does not meet the NRSP standard. So I would deny the remaining parts of the application. Council, are we okay with that?
And yeah, I just want to be clear that I'm referencing everything I said about the denial of the other variances.
So just for clarity, and we're gonna approve the 2 small little enclosures, but no re-veg or anything. No mitigation, aside from whatever else, the normal stuff.
I think we all want to see the wetlands restored, and we want to, but
That's
we don't have a
justice
nexus.
northern Ridgeview. Did we get that? Revegetation in northern Ridgeview? Or we're getting that too. And what about the septic system? Although I would feel I could figure out the septic, actually.
Do we have a nexus to the septic?
Well, it's not a requirement. That's
Right.
It's not required.
Yeah.
Because they're not expanding it.
Right.
It doesn't trigger like the automatic. Trigger.
I think we should leave it as is.
Yeah. Let's.
Okay. All right. You guys are good. I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we need no motion here, no? This is, no, it's just a post hearing, right, there was we didn't open the record again. Yeah.
We're going to go into Sands Capital.
Okay,
and I
before
think
you
we'll
read
get
it in, Mr. Chair, before you read it in, I'm going to excuse
our alternate to come on up.
Mr. Alternate.
I'm gonna leave this here. Is that in your way? No? Okay, I'm gonna leave this back here. Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry.
Here it is, here's all my stuff.
Next decision is Sands Capital Holdings LLC at 183 Marine Boulevard, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-176-8-23.3. The size and location is 57,325 square feet at 183 Marine Boulevard, Beach Hampton, Section 2, lots 11 through 17, and include part of Lot 10, Lot 2 of CMPSJ, Amagansett. The description is to raise and renovate the existing residence and existing cottage in order to meet FEMA first floor elevation standards, construct 519 square foot of additions to the main residence, construct new stairs, reconfigure the existing swimming pool, new driveway, gate, attached basement garage, and to temporarily clear approximately 3,100 square feet of beach vegetation on a parcel of land containing dunes, dune land, and beach vegetation, and which is located within front yard lot line setbacks higher than the maximum allowable height outside of the town's pyramid regulations and greater than the maximum allowable gross floor area. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 7 variances are required for this application. Variances of 6 foot 11 inches, 12 foot 9 inches, and 5 foot 7 inches are required from 225-1172D of the town to allow the residents to be 6 foot 11 and 12 foot 9 outside of the town's pyramid regulations along the eastern and northern lot lines, and for the cottage to be 5 foot 7 outside the town's pyramid regulations along the western lot line. One variance of 7.9 inches is required from 255-1110 of the town code to allow the residents to have a maximum height of 37 foot 9 inches above adjacent natural grade where 30 foot is the maximum allowable. One variance of 560 square foot from 255-1110 of the town code is required to allow the residents to have a maximum gross floor area of 5,082 square feet, where 4,522 square feet is the maximum allowable. Two variances of 4.6 feet and 0.4 feet are required from 255-1110 of the town to construct decking and swimming pool 15.4 feet and 19.6 feet from the front yard lot line where 20-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, the E17 velocity flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And we're going to let John, you want to lead us off on this?
Yep. Thank you, Chairman Deline. At the first public hearing held May 20, 2025, the applicant was represented by Richard Hammer and Britton Bistrian, Laura Beppu of BMA Architects, and the owner Erica Belsky also spoke on behalf of the application. Tyler Borsak appeared on behalf of the Town Planning Board. At this hearing, attorney Jeff Bragman spoke in opposition to the application, representing Rona Klopman of 184 Marine Boulevard. Jack Hasid, who lives directly across the street at 186 Marine Boulevard, called in opposition to the application. A continuation was granted with the record left open for 30 days in order to receive a building protocol from the applicant and to receive any additional public comment. At a ZBA work session on June 24th, 2025, it was decided to schedule a new hearing because alternative new plans were submitted by the applicant. Excuse me. There was a second public hearing on July 22nd. I submitted a report, and Richard Hammer appeared on behalf of the applicant. Tyler Borsak appeared on behalf of the Town Planning Board. Attorney Jeff Bragman spoke in opposition to the application, now representing three neighbors, Rona Klopman at 184 Marine Boulevard, Jack Hasid at 186 Marine Boulevard, and Kathy Rockland at 7 Dune. Jack Hasid of 186 Marine Boulevard and Rona Klopman of 184 Marine Boulevard, both directly across the street from 183 Marine, appeared in opposition to the application. There were no callers. So we've received two different sets of plans for this application. Originally, a set of plans that featured a gabled roof, and secondly, on July 22nd, we reviewed a set of flat roofed plans. So Chairman Deline read off the variances requested for the original set of plans, which featured a gabled roof. In the public record, there were a total of 7 letters from neighbors, 5 against and 2 for. The house was built in 2000. When the house was built in 2008, it met then current FEMA standards. FEMA standards have changed since the house was constructed, and it is likely they will change again in the future. Excuse me. The applicant is not being compelled by FEMA or any agency to meet the newest FEMA standards. The work being proposed to meet current FEMA standards is required by doing the work to meet current FEMA standards. This self-triggering, self-caused motive was acknowledged by Richard Hammer at the first hearing on May 20th. He called it a tautology. In essence, the owner is creating the problem that they are proposing to solve. East Hampton zoning laws are not secondary nor subservient to FEMA regulations. Further, there is nothing inherently contradictory between them. They can and do function in harmony. The town of East Hampton is not required to sacrifice its standards at the altar of FEMA. According to the standards set forth in 255-8-50 A, whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or will cause a detriment to nearby properties. The proposed raised house, whether gabled or flat roof, will rise anywhere from approximately 7 feet to 9.5 feet higher than the current residence and 7 feet 9 inches to 10 feet above East Hampton Town's height maximum allowed at 255-1110. The current house is already beyond the maximum GFA permitted and requests another 560 square feet. The pyramid law, as enumerated in 255-11-72D, is punctured substantially by from 5 feet for the cottage roof to 12 feet 9 inches for the main residence. The residence and cottages are structures that are near to and visible from Marine Boulevard. As attested to by the 5 opposing letters of the 7 received, by the fact that 3 immediate neighbors retained a lawyer to oppose this application, by the substantial height, pyramid, and GFA variances being requested, it is my opinion that granting the variances requested will cause an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood and will create a detriment to nearby properties by allowing a more massive and taller structure to exist beyond what is currently permitted by town code. B, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. It is my opinion that the primary benefit being sought results from seeking the benefit. That's the aforementioned, an example of the aforementioned tautology. While it is likely beneficial for to the owners of the house to be current with FEMA regulations, there is no external agency forcing them to do so. When FEMA requirements change again in the future, as they almost are certain to, will the owner want to renovate the house again to meet those new standards? The alternative is to raise the house, to lift the house, to meet FEMA's new regulations and meet the town of East Hampton's height and pyramid regulations. It can be done simultaneously. This would result in a smaller residence than currently exists. The other alternative is to enjoy the house as is. C, whether the requested variance is substantial. I believe that the requested height variances of between 26 to 40% for the residence, depending on whether the roof is gabled or flat, that the pyramid variances of between 5 to 12 feet 9 inches, depending upon the roof design, are substantial. The house and cottage together are 4,563 square feet, already above the maximum allowed of 4,522 square feet. An additional 560 square feet being asked to fill the vacancy that would exist where the garage is if the house were raised. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or in the affected area of the town, I am not qualified to know whether the benefit of meeting current FEMA regulations by raising the house 9 feet 6 inches with breakaway walls, etc., is offset by the potential for additional wind damage from having higher structures. But I do believe that having more massive and higher structures will negatively affect the physical condition of the neighborhood. Whether the difficulty causing the application to request an area variance was self-created, which considerations shall be relevant to the determination, I believe the work being proposed is self-elected. Though I don't believe the NRSP relief nor the pool or decking variances being sought are unreasonable, they are moot, as I vote to deny all the other variances being sought, whether for the gabled or flat roofed options.
Thank you. Terry?
Okay. Thank you for that in-depth discussion.
Welcome.
Yeah, I didn't go into all the specifics of the differences in the heights. Just quite honestly, when I saw both sets of them, they were both extremely high. This rehearing, there were some, well, with the changes with the flat roof, the agent wanted the board to consider either of these applications. And regardless, both have large height and pyramid variances needed for the main house and the cottage and exceed the maximum GFA allowed today. There was submissions by Biondo and Hammer on May 15th, 2025, received by us on May 15th. The original house, as stated, was at 183 Marine, was constructed by an NRSP granted by the ZBA at that time in 2006. And at that time, the house complied with all setbacks as well as the FEMA regulations at that time. In 2009, the FEMA regs changed. The narrative is stated, the entire motivation for the application is to conform to FEMA. As already brought up by John, the height and pyramid variances are extremely large, both in the first and second iteration of it. And in addition, there's a 560-foot variance requested from 255-1110 of the town code to allow max gross floor area of 5,082, where 4,522 is the max allowed. And RSP is also required unless the variance is for the swimming pool and deck. Driveway reconfiguration was set up from 2 to 1 serving both structures. And as far as NRSP, I have a problem with the driveway, with the substance that of the driveway. The driveway proposes a clover paved driveway mixed with small pavers, and which a TAM described as unique. I see it as being totally out of character with any other driveways along Marine Boulevard. I also see the height, the variances are not the minimum necessary. And I will deny all of those. And the letters of support were mentioned, two neighbors in opposition, and Jeff Bragman was counsel for Rona Kloppman. There was a lot of discussion around the FEMA requirements versus the East Hampton Town Code, in which takes priority. And as we know, they can coexist peacefully with each other, and the desire for the FEMA compliance does not overweigh the East Hampton Town Code. There are other alternatives that I feel that there are other alternatives that the applicant can consider that would possibly an entire redevelopment of a one-story structure with the FEMA compliances. And I just want to comment on a few things. As far as the self-created, in this case, I think this was absolutely a self-created problem that was run into just a little. As we know, there was a ZBA determination back in June of 21 for the lot line modification with the board, which was granted, and that put the cottage onto the property of the 183 ownership. And this basically created the problem that exists today, that they're already over the maximum GFA. And in 2021, Mr. Bragman submitted some testimony from that ZBA hearing by a member and the chair at that time that stated that both of those were already mostly maxed out of GFA, so that was part of their motivation for allowing the property line change. Assuming that there would be no unintended consequences because both Lot 1 and Lot 2 were already pushing the limits of the GFAs on it. I am denying this application in its entirety. I think minimum variances are not met. There are more minimum variances that could be required. I think the driveway and would also have to be changed, and I think the benefit to this applicant that the variances would cause a very undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and very likely a detriment to nearby properties. And the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible to pursue other than these variances. And they are substantial, and they will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in this neighborhood. And they, well, already mentioned that it was self-created. It shall be relevant, but not necessarily preclude, except this one was very much self-created. So I'm going to deny the application in its entirety.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank Member Thorson for that complete analysis to begin with, because I think you covered a lot of things. I'm not going to go through all the standards again, but the same standards you cited were important to me in making my decision. I will go to one or two of them. I think that the crux of the presentation on behalf of the applicant was to talk about FEMA standards and trying to comply to them and to raise the house accordingly. There are a couple of things that are important there in our decision making here. One is that, of course, it was being done voluntarily, as has been mentioned. And if we were bringing it up voluntarily, what were the other implications to the community and to the structure at that time? We talked about increased pyramid variances that were going to be needed, and they were significant. They proposed a second design. The second design was no better in many ways. It was worse because the volume of the roof with the flat roof created pyramid situation that was less desirable, in my opinion, but neither one were acceptable. I think when we were looking at the FEMA, and this was brought up, FEMA regulations in their own say that the FEMA regulations should be followed as long as they can be as compatible as possible with local zoning regulations. In this case, our zoning regulations really are significantly being asked to make a significant allowance here for the new structures that were going to raise it. I didn't think that this was a legitimate effort to look at a possible rethink. If we go to the standards, but I just want to read this one to a minute, down on 255, 551, under D1 and 2, whether alternative designs were considered and were importantly incorporated in the decision making. I think once they voluntarily came and said we were going to raise the house, the question was brought up at the hearing, does the two-story house meant to be raised? Were there any other alternatives? No, they wanted the two-story house. Well, if you're looking to bring this very, very significant change, I think an alternative then would have been, as was mentioned by Member Thorson, a smaller house, certainly a one-story house. This is a case of wanting to have both sides of it. I want to raise it up, but I also want to have that full house. I don't think you can do both. I don't think that we were looking at this in that case. The impact on the neighborhood is significant. It's a visual impact, as well as I think we start changing the character of the entire neighborhood, not just in that immediate area, but up and down the line. I thought that the quote from Tim Brenneman and from John Whalen were important because I think it had a lot to do with our thinking and allowing the lot line approval back in 21. That was on what, 5/22/21. I'm just going to read into a slight bit about Tim Brenneman because I think it's important. I think this is Tim. I think that I would note simply that they are almost maxed out on GFA, and since they're maxed out, it's one of the reasons why I didn't feel that there were unintended consequences here, because a lot receiving this cottage was basically maxed out on lot one, and therefore at the 90th percentile already. So both lots were very near maximum gross floor area. When we were approving that, and I was part of the board, when we were approving it, a big concern was what did it mean relative to the lot that's being discussed tonight? It was maxed out. Therefore, when they came to us again, we knew that it would be difficult for them to get approvals. Now we get a proposal to us that is not really accommodating the site in the way that it could have. Had they come to us with a one-story structure that was smaller, talked about some of the other detailing, talked about how they might accommodate the problems that are associated with the with the pyramid violations be one thing. I don't think this application rises on any level to allow us to approve an NRSP. I also don't think that a legitimate effort was made here to try to come up with the best possible solution for what is a very aggressive move to take a house of that size and raise it another 9 feet. I want to go through all the standards, but for 255, 850, whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood, yes. I say yes, it absolutely is. I think I feel adamantly about that. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, of course. Whether the difficulty causing the requesting applicant was self-created, well, of course, he's admitted that in the application itself, in the presentation. And then lastly, I think under compatibility, these are important. All these standards here were important to me in making the decision. Is this a compatible change to the neighborhood that the site proposes is suitable for this location for this particular change? No, it's not. This is, if you go down there now and you look at the house, it's got a significant presence where it sits. Raising it 9 feet as is just unacceptable. I think it's been well explained by Member Thorson, and I'm in agreement with what's been said here by both board members before me, and I am going to deny this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
This is a very important discussion we're having because, so I'm going to do a little bit of repeating because I think we really have to have a complete record on how we all feel. I think it's going to become necessary in the future for local town boards to look at the standards that we have to look at as a board when issuing NRSP and variance applications on shoreline properties that are subject to FEMA. That being said, this clearly does not meet the standards we have to look at. This project does not meet those standards in any way. If approved, this house will loom over the neighboring parcels, and grant of these pyramids would expand the above-ground mass of this residence when looking at lot measurements on this parcel of land. FEMA does not trump over our zoning code, and this is being done on a voluntary basis. Now, I did read the floodplain management bulletin, and in 3.3.9, it addresses local laws or ordinances. And for the record, I'd just like to be clear on why I made my decision. And it does state, variances shall only be issued upon a determination that the granting of a variance will not result in conflict with existing laws or ordinances. It also addresses in 3.3.10, minimum necessary to afford relief. Variances shall only be issued upon a determination that the granting of a variance is the minimum necessary, considering the flood hazard, to afford relief. A variance granted must be the absolute minimum needed to minimize or reduce future flood damage and still relieve the hardship. The house was legal to FEMA when built. The applicant is voluntarily committing to raise this house to FEMA foundation and elevation standards. As a town and a municipality, we will obviously have to address management of coastal projects in the future as a result of climate change. But as a board, we can only grant or deny what does not meet the standards before us. And I feel both plans before us do not meet that standard. The modified application height variance for the main house will exceed a maximum allowable height by 10 feet, 0.125 in the town. This will block light, air, and open space for neighboring properties and will literally change drastically the character of this neighborhood. They are all self-created hardships. If you want to raise your house, if you want to build a house, then act in parallel with the zoning code that this board has to adhere to. FEMA does not trump jurisdictional zoning board powers. They are asking in both projects for very substantial variances, which will create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood and set a precedent. This would be damaging and harmful to this hamlet. Variances are being requested and are not the minimum necessary. Local governments have the authority and right to enforce their building code and land use policies, which does include local zoning ordinances. Local zoning laws play a key role in further shaping and enforcing building codes and expansion or development standards that are there to protect our community. The other issue I had, and it's already been stated by Member Berger, is the GFA. I mean, the 1,280 square foot cottage combined with the proposed residence results in a total GFA of 5,082 square feet, where 4,522 square feet is the maximum allowable. So let's forget about FEMA. This application is coming before us, would require variances and NRSPs. Would we approve it? I don't think so. In a very vulnerable area, they are over the maximum allowable GFA. The applicant can achieve the same benefits it seeks by another method, raise or build a house that acts in parallel to current zoning code that we have to base our decision on, and one that meets the standards. The application will not be compatible with the surroundings and the character of the neighborhood and the community. There is no doubt that these variances will impair properties and those of other homeowners, and the variances are trying to go over our overall zoning requirements. So I don't think FEMA can be used as a reason to expand your residence. So for all the reasons stating, I will be denying this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Before I begin, Council, I'm going to ask for a clarification. We've heard some arguments tonight that FEMA cannot trump or forget FEMA. And that is my understanding that it's a federal law. It's my understanding that if FEMA is triggered, that the zoning board is not allowed to give a variance or say that FEMA cannot be, or say that FEMA does not apply. We have to adhere to FEMA if it is triggered. Is that correct?
I would have to confirm that. I can't off the top of my head, but I would say that, well, in this case, FEMA isn't triggered, so
right.
I understand that, but I understand, but that goes to the crux of the applicant's argument.
I think that if FEMA was required, I would say that there would at least be a lot of deference that would need to be given.
We've had this discussion on zoning board, and Tyler, maybe you can chime in. We've had this discussion on zoning board. Case in point, Ditch Plains Trailer Park, where we had trailers on the thing. They wanted to replace a trailer, and then we were required, and they were required to meet FEMA. And so my question here, and I think it goes to the crux of the applicant's presentation to application, is that at some point they will be required. So that is the basis of their election. So I just want to make sure that we don't that when we say that we don't care about FEMA or that it doesn't trump local law, that we do not have the authority to not adhere to it.
Yes. I believe the board is able to grant variances from FEMA.
Yes.
But
I've heard arguments against that.
It's happened in the past. The problem is that if you do it often, we get audited, it can jeopardize insurance rates across town.
That's correct. Right. That there's a, and I think that goes to the crux of the application of this and what Andy's argument is. I struggle with this application. I'll be forward with this, but I'm looking at, when I look at this application, is what are the arguments? I looked at the in depth Andy's argument on the May 15, 2025, and he's got a financial argument. He's got a with the insurance company. This house is 20 years old. It's at and every repair on the house goes against the 50%. It's cumulative. So the house is at the roof is at its age. They're going to be replacing the roof. That's a big ticket on that house. So I think the crux of his argument, as much as I don't like this application, I'm looking at the crux of his argument that says, if we do go to the variance standards and we say, I say it does affect the character of the neighborhood, there's no doubt about it, but does it create harm? Let's go to the first standard. I want to just pull that up. The benefit of the applicant from grant of the area variance outweighs any detriment which grant of the variance will cause to the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood of the town. And I think Andy specifically dealt with that in his argument that says it does not. And he even admitted that if it does affect the character of the neighborhood, but at some point it's going to be required. And I look at that and I'm saying, with and a house on the ocean, and it goes through a lot of abuse weather-wise. Their ticket is a ticket, a cost ticket that's occurring on that house every day. And so I think that his argument holds some water. And so unfortunately, I'm going to say that unfortunately, I'm going to say I think that the argument holds water, and I'm going to support the application, although I don't like it. I don't want to. I think he holds a valid argument for wanting to raise it. When it comes to the insurance requirement, the flood insurance, the financial benefits that he will do with the election, he's going to eventually do it. It's a horrible thing. I think this town needs to get with it. I think this town needs to get with it and redefine these codes.
But see, that's why we have justification, though, to deny it. And I don't think it's our jurisdiction to think about what FEMA will eventually require. I mean, I completely respect how you feel, and I've been struggling with this for days. But this was being done on a voluntary basis. Now, in terms of damage to the surrounding properties, I'm not an engineer, but if my house is up here and everybody else's house is down here, and we get a hurricane or a storm surge or flooding, we're creating a corridor now with one house for that water to go. How does it affect? Please let me finish. How does that affect the other properties? We don't really know. It's similar to putting a bulkhead in and no other property owner having a bulkhead.
Well,
it's going to affect adjoining properties.
But
I think
that's the purpose of the FEMA requirements is resiliency, and resiliency is breakaway walls and blah, blah, blah. So now we're saying resiliency is not a good thing when this town supports its resiliency. So I struggle with that argument.
Yeah.
They have breakaway walls and all that stuff that is meant to be resilient on coastal. So again, and this is just a conversation we're having because it's going to be a denied application. That's fine, but I think these are things that I think it holds water, and I'm just going to say that I don't like it. I think. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I think the town has work to do.
Going back to the floodplain management, the sections that Denise read earlier, 3.3.9 goes into the explanation of existing local laws and ordinances and the impacts, and it does not say we must follow FEMA.
Well, I understand, but one of the arguments was saying, okay, it was, and Jeff Bragman brought this up too, and it was FEMA compliant in 2006, but it's not FEMA compliant FEMA compliant according to FEMA, and it's not, it might be FEMA compliant as us as a zoning board or what we want to see it, but the flood insurance, the insurance companies don't see it as compliant. So, I mean, he's bringing forward, my point is he's bringing forward a financial argument that has weight to it, to me. That's all
and that's a respectable opinion to have. I'm just looking at it in terms of the standards as a board member that I have to look at. This doesn't meet that standard.
Follow.
Current in my present.
Okay, I'm good.
In present time.
We good, council?
Yeah.
Thank you. John, you're on the bench. Oh, you're
on the lead on the next one.
They're gonna make
I'm actually leaving, I think. I have to, yeah.
Oh, you're leaving.
I'm leaving this time. Okay.
Do I have to move over there? Where's my name? Where's my name tag?
Did you take your?
It's yours. What could be brought is fine.
Our next decision is Ivan Jacome at 78 Hildreth Place in Spring, subtax map number 300-96-5-1.6. Size and location is 15,151.5 square feet at 78 Hildreth Place, Estates of Montauk, lots 9 through 15, block 55, filed January 29, 1913 as map number 48 in Springs. Description is to allow an existing 500 square foot pool to remain within minimum front yard and rear yard setbacks. We've sought as two variances of 12.9 feet and 4.8 feet pursuant to 255-1110 of the East Hampton Town Code. It's needed to allow the pool to remain 17.1 feet and 15.2 feet from the front and side yard lines where 30 and 20 feet are required. Zoning district is B residence, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And John, you want to take us?
Thank you, Chairman Deline.
Getting off on two decisions.
Yeah, exciting. The public hearing was held on August 12, 2025, and the applicant, Ivan Jacome, represented himself. There were no public comments. Brian Frank appeared on behalf of the Town Planning Department. The pool was built in a slightly more conforming location than was approved by the Building Department. However, there were two errors in building permit number 74256. The first was in approving the pool to be 18 feet from the eastern lot line, which borders a road, albeit unopened, is considered a front yard and requires a 30-foot setback as per 255-11-10 of the East Hampton Town Code. The building permit approved the pool to be 15.1 feet from the northern side yard, where 20 feet is required as per 255-11-10. There seems to be some uncertainty as to the exact status of the unopened road, which is called St. James Court, and the eastern lot line could possibly be considered a side yard, potentially reducing the violation there to 2.9 feet. The eastern lot line is shielded by a fence and 36 feet of the wooded and uncleared St. James Road or Court, and is 50 feet from the nearest neighbor. The northern property line is fenced and shielded from neighbors by the Lossaw Nature Preserve. Even though the owner is ultimately responsible for conforming to town codes, even in the case of building department errors, I don't believe the granting of the requested variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or will cause a detriment to nearby properties, as the location of the pool is buffered by an unopened road on the east and a nature preserve on the north. I don't believe removing and rebuilding a new pool is a feasible alternative to the variances being requested. And though mathematically significant, I don't believe the effect of the variances being requested is substantial. I don't believe granting these variances will have any adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or in the affected area of the town. And lastly, the pool being built within side and front yard setbacks is self-created and is the owner's ultimate responsibility, though he was aided and abetted by a building department error. So I vote to approve this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Jane?
Thank you. So I, too, am going to approve this, and I agree with much of what Member Thorson has gone through the standards, so I will not repeat them all, but again, it's very relevant to how I look at this application. Number one, that Brian Frank, when he spoke on behalf of the planning department and answered our questions and showed us the two surveys, that most of what has happened here is a result of mistakes made by the building department. And again, that doesn't mean that we have to approve it, but it was fairly clear that we're, not one, but two mistakes. And removing a pool and moving it, I do think becomes a hardship for an applicant when they appeared to receive a proper, they received a building permit. And then secondly, I also agree that with respect to, why we have double setbacks or enlarged setbacks for pools, it's to prevent disturbance to the neighbors. And I also agree that the unopened road and the nature preserve on, both of those lot lines where the variances are required do mitigate what would be my normal concern on granting lot line variances. So for those reasons, and again, agreeing with how Member Thorson went through the standards, I would say the same things about those standards. I'm approving the application.
Thank you. Terry?
I too am approving the application. There's not much more left to say. I think there was also some question perhaps about that St. James Court, whether and when the pool was constructed, between those two things, that possibly it would have been not a double setback from the St. James Court side. But I'm approving both variances.
Thank you.
Application.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I am too. I think that the Paper Road, St. James Court to the east, and the fact that there was an easement to the north, there's two areas that already have a certain amount of protection built in. I think you have to make note of the fact that the building permit allowed for it to be the proposed pool to be 18 foot and 15 2-foot from property lines. It was built at 17.1 and 15.1, which is about a 10-inch difference in one direction, 1.5 inches in another. It's not significant. The planner did say at the time that looking at it, it seems to be in the same spot. There was some question about the square areas changing back and forth, but looking at the building permit, it looks to be the same thing. If there was a building department error, and I think that the benefit to the applicant here outweighs the detriment to the environment and to the town. So I'm approving in its entirety.
Thank you. I agree with my board members. I don't have anything to add. We have other decisions. 376 Bleecker Street LLC at 78 Seaside Avenue, Seaside in Montauk. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-32-7-32.1. It's a modification of a 2022 determination. Kyle, you want to take us through this?
Sure. This one was Brian's. I will try my best to summarize his assessment of it. So it's a change in building plans and the survey. Originally, it was approved to demolish a 1,000 square foot single-story residence and construct a 2,392 square foot two-story residence, 750 square feet of decking, a sanitary system, and driveway. There was 2 continuous public hearings, an extensive evaluation on alternatives to the sanitary system, and the extent of grading proposed in the application. As far as the changes in the modification, the setback of the proposed residence to the wetland to the west has been reduced from 51.3 feet to 48.5 feet, so a slight reduction in the setback. The setback to the wetlands to the west have been increased from 95.4 feet to 96.3 feet. The proposed building lot coverage, total lot coverage has been reduced negligibly, 100 square feet in total lot coverage and 70 square feet in building coverage. The proposed clearing boundary and square footage appear to remain the same. The components of the sanitary system remain unchanged. As far as the residence is concerned, the GFA remains the same. The first floor was reduced slightly and the second floor was increased slightly, very minimal amounts like 10 square feet. Where are the numbers? 16 square feet difference. It's negligible differences. Square footage of the decking has decreased from 750 square feet to 450 square feet. There does not appear to be a roof deck included in the modified plans, as there was one approved in the original plans. The residence was approved with a slab foundation. The proposed residence indicates wood pilings on structural framing. Brian says that the applicant should clarify the depth of penetration of the foundation with an amendment to the elevation plans. If granted, all of the mitigation required for the original approval should be incorporated into the requested modification.
Board members, any questions or comments?
It seems as if most of them are an improvement in terms of environmental, except for the one.
Majority of it, there is that slight decrease in setback from
one
51 to
setback in one
48.
direction. Yeah.
It's pretty minimal. And then it's an increase in the setback from the other side. So it's sort of a give and take, I guess, there. But yeah, it didn't seem like significant changes. The only thing that Brian noted was the depth of that the different foundation. Make sure that it met a 2-foot separation of groundwater, I'm sure.
Right.
Are we
That was my
conditioning it on a sketch or a drawing of that foundation?
Is it, that's what he's suggesting, is that they show it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, do we,
No motion, it's like.
I don't think we require a motion.
Okay, and the mitigation required for the original should be incorporated into the.
Yes, yeah, I think he said that,
Did
yeah.
he say that?
Yeah. We have Mendoza at 94 Copper Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-160-3-1, modification to include the as-built pool patio.
Didn't we heard this recently, didn't we?
Yeah, we did it.
Is this Copper or Cooper?
It should be Cooper Lane, yeah.
It says
Yeah.
Cooper up there.
What about this?
Morgan's not here. I think.
Should we table it?
Is this the one that,
This is another
isn't this the
building.
one with the building permit that made mistakes and he built it
I
and then
think
found
we
out there were
mistakenly
problems?
left
Is that
the pool patio off of the notice,
Yeah,
Right.
even though it's there and it needs relief.
it was just I think it was just an oversight on the notice that.
And we already said yes to this.
You said yes to the
yeah.
pool, so it's just, and the
I
notice
remember this
didn't
one.
mention it, so we're just trying to make sure.
I'm sorry, can you just clarify that you said the pool patio needs relief and you're saying that we verbally said we approved the pool patio relief? Was it noticed?
You approved the
I can't
pool,
remember. No, I know we approved the
wasn't
pool, I
noticed.
know that.
Patio
yeah.
wasn't noticed, correct.
even though it was there.
I'm sorry, so just one more time.
it's a
Was there
clarification.
Yeah,
another,
it's like they're asking
A
for,
clarification on.
right,
Yeah,
because it
it's
was
just-
left
they're not
out.
asking for another variance that was
No,
not
no.
noticed the first
It's a
time?
clarification that the definition include the pool patio. Is that
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
it?
pool
That's
and pool
basically
patio.
what it is,
Yeah.
because the pool patio was always there.
Right.
Right,
And it's the same dimension.
right.
Yeah, the physical conditions haven't changed. It's just a
Right.
clarification of the approved notice.
It's just a matter of including that.
You see, I can't remember, I think I denied this, I remember, if we table this, I could go back and look, but I feel like I remember looking at, there were these different patios and I can't remember, you know what, I don't even want to say, but, so I don't know.
I don't want to table. it.
I
Let me
think
just-
whether or not, I
me
don't
just-
know if it's right or not wrong, but I think the fact that if you did deny it, still, you could,
But I don't remember. what-
doesn't affect your determination on this, I don't know.
I don't know, I'm not
It
sure.
doesn't matter, I mean, board, what do you feel? I'm okay.
I'm
with this,
okay with it.
You're
too.
okay with it?
I'm looking in my
We're
book
okay.
if I can find
Okay,
it.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll do a modification to add the patio as part of it.
We have Goldman at 51 East Lake Drive in Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-20-2-16 is a secret classification, but Tyler, I believe this is unlisted. I
Yes,
believe
so
we're being asked to,
the purpose of this is for the board to determine that it is an unlisted action and to declare lead agency on it. You'll be the only agency in this case because the DEC already issued a permit, I believe, if I remember correctly. I talked to Brian about it last week. Essentially, the purpose of this is for the secret process, to get the secret process correct, is to agree that it is an unlisted action. It's definitely not a type 1 action. And it's not a type 2 action because it's clearing within a wetland. Essentially what they want to do is they want to clear the area up here, which is partially within wetlands. There's a bunch of bamboo in there. That's what the project is for, is to clear that bamboo out and restore it, which requires an unlisted action because it requires clearing within a wetland. So the purpose of this is to agree that it is an unlisted action and then to declare yourself lead agency, and then we'll continue the secret process down the line.
Okay, so for us right now, it's relatively, we're not getting into the environmental assessment part of it.
Right.
At this point, we are just seeking lead agency.
Right.
I'm saying it's
You're not
unlisted.
doing a negative declaration or anything like that, or a positive declaration, or we're not at that stage yet. This is just to say, yep, it is an unlisted action, you can move ahead with it, and we're declaring ourselves lead agency.
And we have a motion to that effect.
Mhm.
And by the way, this parcel's
I'll
been
do a
in front of
motion.
us a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This
I
parcel.
believe so, yeah. I'm not handling this
Familiar
one,
with the site.
but yeah, I saw there was a.
But this is purely for this bamboo removal?
I'm not sure if there's other
We're
aspects
just
of it,
declaring
but
that
the
we wanna
unlisted
have
part
lead
of it is the
agency.
bamboo
Okay.
part.
Okay, I'll make the motion. In the matter of Goldman, 51 East Lake Drive in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-20-2-16, I make a motion that we declare this an unlisted action and
Declare lead agents. I know, I have my words opposite.
list this as an unlisted action and declare that the Zoning Board of Appeals would like to be lead agency.
I'll second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
Concur. We have the draft minutes of Tuesday, August 12th.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for August 12th, 2025.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur, thank you. We have resolutions, Philip Giordano at 15 DeForest Road, Montauk.
Okay, this was mine. You remember this? This is the gate that was put
Yep.
1 foot away from the wetlands, and there was a unanimous denial on this modification. So for Philip Giordano at 15 DeForest Road, Montauk, tax map 300-32-5-22, I make a motion to approve, well, to deny the modification as written. Does that sound right?
No.
To adopt
Adopt the
Termination.
resolution.
Adopt the resolution as written.
modification as written. Thank you.
Getting fancy.
I concur.
Concur. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
We have Joseph Macari and Kim Stoller at
That's
20
tabled.
Bendigo Road,
No, that's
Narragansett. Oh, that's tabled.
Yeah, we didn't get
We
it.
have Ryan Jansen at 164 Westlake Drive in Montauk.
Right, this is mine also. You recall, this is a redevelopment of the property with
Good night, Sarah.
peninsula
Thank you,
net
sir.
of wetlands going around the house. And this was a unanimous approval. This is granting a very large scenic easement and revegetation as part of this project. So for Ryan Jansen at 164 Westlake Drive, Montauk, tax map 300-19-5-8 and 21, to make a motion to approve the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Susan Lehman at 7 Outlook Avenue in Springs.
This was mine. The purpose of this application was to legalize an existing floating dock and construct a 1,606 square foot two-story residence, 262 square foot deck, approximately 925 square foot patio, IA system, and utilize an existing 324 square foot fisherman's cottage as an accessory structure with plumbing. It was a unanimous decision by this board to approve. I'd like to make a motion in the matter of Susan Lehman, 7 Outlook Avenue in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-57-4-7. I make a motion to approve the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
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 Okay, here we go.
We have an
Now
adjournment.
we're going to adjourn. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting this evening on August 19th, 2025 at 8:32 PM.
Second.
Concur.